If a bill is not passed, and then the life of the parliament expires, then it lapses. But this one was passed. Are you getting the situation? Is that okay? We have passed it. If
I was young Tano pay no mammy more quaba na yending Komoka Krase, a what joining me a young Katie could, of course. I Storm TV Ghana, whatever. Obaswa na watchra wadwene nkoma ye ba bedi e beto to wadwene sanse adwenkyere we acquire sahwene obia ne de obia ne shoe size ne ade na enei ensemo ebobọ ba ene se na no parliament house wo mo de betu dwe se LGBTQ+ hwan na ekeka ho bebrebe bi no kratai a wo mo de kwato parliament a eno kura na eka ho NPP amayoku yitu omufura ban mu kire se one more dress and another down go for the intimate sign a bill that dame and the bill 120. One to me sign and no, and some George Bay you two says one no Sagana for two about the two Michelle John Dramani Mahama, Seremus said your 10 more. One Casabello, now what you back when I watch me in the Bosome or Beham my John Dramani Mahama was Sanekratana, but a Ghana for the 2 me a Shannon said. And until another down go for 1 year, Mampeni Papa. Into amount to my John Dramani Mahama. Ghana for you will say your tomano. Then read here one more parliament almost a paper naira. Hey, LGBTQ+ one paper naira that parliament and then me them will quick and now them. That's a paper naira. I mean, you almost paper no moon. Now, I know, and now, Nancy, majority leader. What about Montes a cratan when you die? And you die. Now, one with the Akume diagra na. The one we hear the ass one with the Adini diagro. Majority leader. Actress a cratan and you die. Na cratan could have been died. Cratan at the parliament. A bay de penayra. Why in a coffer? And the nipple of a cratan, macratan, bayrano. Sabi in previous. Or your trumu. Eh? Ghana for trauma, you say nipple of a cratan, macratan, it me free parliament one. I'm a share for a cashier for no. Good parliament one, and to Muntimin keep paper my paper and betting yaira. There be a sir. And the Nipacro fight the Nipacrono, were you gay? So your bounce when you were a lesbian. Eh? Tina, so one was any transgender or could have been to one into. I was here. I know Anna Paula de Motre, wedding commodity as a cratan of idea, a majority leader. Majority leader. What dress a cratano, and you're right. I was young go to Musa Camera.
So they bill the LGBT bill. I heard the arguments. And Mahama Yariga says the bill is still there.
Yeah, so he initially said that as a press conference, and that is number 19 on the player. If
also you want us to watch that.
That is so. So okay. Number 19, Mahama Yariga.
Let's watch the Mahama Yariga video.
If a bill is not passed, and then the life of the parliament expires, then it lapses. But this one was passed. Are you getting the situation? Is that okay? We have passed it. If a bill is not passed, and then the life of the parliament expires, then it lapses. But this one was passed.
Yes, so that was Mahama Yariga.
So after this, there was a bit of discussion on social media, and it would seem that the Speaker of Parliament equally became aware of the comments that were made. And so the Speaker, the Right Honourable Babin, stated his view of the position, to wit that once a Parliament is dissolved or stands dissolved, all actions that are incompleted dies with that Parliament. And so the video is also there as Speaker Babin talks about the dissolution of Parliament. I think that is number 18.
Let's watch
in
that.
The mixer.
Let's see that one.
Honourable members, with regard to the bill, as you know, the 8th Parliament is history. So are all the businesses that were pending in the 8th Parliament. They all ended with the 8th Parliament. And so we have a new Parliament, the 9th Parliament. And therefore, what was pending there came to an end and had to be reintroduced.
So what's the speaker saying?
So now the speaker is saying that every uncompleted act of the 8th Parliament has to be reintroduced and must be subject to this process. That is the procedure for passing laws in Ghana. To which Article 106.
Okay.
Reading everything will be boring. So what basically Article 106 says is if a bill has to be passed into law, it is produced or it's presented to the House. The House then reads it for the first time. It is referred to the committee for deliberation. In this instance, it was referred to the Constitutional and Legal Committee of Parliament. That should do the deliberation. When that is done, with the report and everything, it's brought back to the floor for the second reading after it is approved, and then it goes to the third reading, it is voted upon, and it's passed as law. Now, that is basically, that's what Parliament did. Parliament passed it as a bill. So it's passed as a bill. However, the process does not end. The bill now has to be transmitted to the President, who would then append his signature, or what we often call an assent of the bill. It is upon the President's assent to the bill that it becomes law. So the fact that Parliament says that we want this to be passed as law does not necessarily mean it will be passed as law. It's the President that has to complete the process by assenting or appending his signature to it to make it law.
So you're saying that the life of a bill and its transition to law is one process.
Yes.
It's not truncated.
No.
So the Parliament will say, I have done my part.
So,
and therefore, as far as Parliament is concerned, it's over.
Yes.
And so the bill is on its way to the President. So when the President changes, the bill is still on its way to the President. Or as some people said, it was on Nana Akufo-Addo's desk and he left. So John Mahama has come to see it. He should just sign it.
Yes.
That's not legal.
Even that, now there are some contrary reports, because it would seem, per some news reports, that the bill actually did not go to the land at the President's desk.
Because he resisted it. The President resisted it.
Yes, no, I'm talking about after
yeah, he resisted the receiving of the bill.
Because there was an injunction.
Because he said there was an injunction that the bill should not be sent to him.
Exactly, a pending legal matter.
Yeah,
and I mean, it's right. Once there's an injunction, you must stop everything.
Yeah.
So now, if the President does not want to sign, he has a problem. The President must now write back to Parliament with the bill, indicating the problems he has with the bill. Now, when Parliament receives the memo from the President, which has, details of the problem, Parliament has two options. One, to either accede to the request of the President and make those changes, or two, insist or impress on the President to sign, but this time it has to be by a 2/3 majority.
Yeah.
So it's a 2/3 majority that will now compel the President, because now there's a 2/3 majority.
But if the President doesn't sign, in American policy, the President doesn't sign and it's passed by 2/3 of Parliament, is deemed passed.
But that's their...
How is the Ghana situation?
Ours is... No,
the President must sign?
The President must assent.
But so if the 2/3 says sign and he doesn't sign...
As the 2/3 says sign, he's bound to sign.
He's bound to. Okay.
Exactly.
So he's bound to. So you can go to court with
and compel and say
compel
that
him.
These are the there's the Hansard for so and so day. The Hansard shows that these were those that were present. The Hansard shows that these are the votes 2/3. Because looking at something like 2/3, I don't think it will be a voice vote. It would have to be.
Yeah, but the NDC has 2/3 in this
yes,
situation.
Yes, in any case.
So assuming that they do the bill again, and the bill goes to the President and he is not signing, and the 2/3 says sign, and he doesn't sign, you can go to court with a mandamus
to compel him
to
because
sign.
as a public officer. So when we say a mandamus basically is a court action that can compel a public officer to perform a public function
that he ought to perform.
Okay, that is his responsibility.
So in that case,
that
the
he
President
is not performing.
Now, the bill, as the debate in Parliament, we had Abu Jalapo, Member of Parliament for Damango, concerned that the bill as it was, if it's been introduced, he was cautioning the NDC not to change anything in the bill. Where is that argument coming from?
The rationale is that I think there is now some sort of general acceptance from members of the NDC that the bill in its present state is not very suitable in our constitutional dispensation, because banning things like association, obviously the Supreme Court has ruled on it 30 years ago. In Justice Amwasichi held that even homosexuals have a right to form associations, and the MPP vs Attorney General Siba, you cannot prevent people from having associations. So things like banning associations and compelling people to report on others may be a problem. More particularly so, you only feel the heat when you are in the kitchen. So it would seem that now the NDC is in power and they are in the kitchen, and as I think the minority leader said, that Honorable Haruna Ibrisu needs money for his budget for school. And so it's becoming a problem. So now the charge of MPP, more particularly Abu Jinapor, is just as you attempted to do to us when we were in power, we will also do same to you.
So pass the bill as it is.
Pass the bill as it was. Yes, as
because we passed it.
Because we passed it.
Yeah, at least in Parliament.
In Parliament,
yeah.
There were some Supreme Court actions here and there. The Supreme Court action finished, and a lot of issues. But now you have 2/3 majority. Most likely, if you do whatever, you may not go to the Supreme Court, or nobody may go to the Supreme Court. So at least initiate the process and have it passed.
So next week, Moses Famani has promised us an interview, and I'll be asking him that the bill appears to criminalize thought
and identity,
and which is very complicated under 1992
so,
Constitution. Menswear, as they say in law, is not a crime.
Yeah.
So if I think LGBT, I have not committed an offense under the Ghanaian Criminal Offences Act. But this bill is introducing that, isn't it?
Yes. So there is an issue of the general principle of law, of criminal law, hinges on what we call generally the harms principle, which was posited by a man called John Stuart Mill. I don't want to get too complicated, but he basically says that criminal law must hinge on one thing. That is, the actions I do that harms another individual or another person must be what is criminalized. So for instance, if a homosexual touches a child, he ought to go to jail. But if per his existence, he doesn't harm another person, then there is no way or there is no reason he or she should be thrown into prison. Because you cannot criminalize a state of being. You can criminalize an action or an omission, because an omission is interpreted as an act. But you cannot criminalize a state of being. So you cannot criminalize someone because the person merely is fancy, or the person merely is a Muslim. But if the person holds certain egregious beliefs of his religion, such that he spills those beliefs, which we believe may be dangerous to society, that act of spilling those beliefs is an act. So if we are throwing the person in jail, we are not throwing the person in jail for belonging to a religion. We are throwing him in jail. We are throwing him in jail for the act of advocating, of putting that information out there, of inciting people against against others. So that is what maybe. Those are the discussions that actually.
Those are the thorny areas.
Areas that have been.
Can the bill all be passed as we're discussing this in one day?
Well, yes, in theory. But if you look at the standing orders of Parliament, and more specifically under Section 17, you would notice that which governs law. You notice that before a bill is presented, the bill has to be placed in the Gazette or advertised. And the rationale is to have people present their opinions.
And how many days is that?
For 17 days.
Okay, so after 17 days, Parliament can use 3 days to pass it.
Can use it, yeah. Oh, even this bill, it was passed one afternoon. After the first reading, when it was sent to the committee hearing...
There are 17 days kicking after the first reading or before the first reading?
Before it is even presented. And the rationale... So, for instance, right now, there are consultations ongoing about the Cybersecurity Bill, Cybersecurity Amendment Bill, and then the NITA, which is another act that they intend to introduce. So those are consultations you can have.
But the president promised that this bill was now going to be a government bill. Is there any more news on that?
So it was when the president met the Catholic Bishops' Conference earlier this year, and he said that one concern was the issue of it coming from a private member's bill means that it cannot place a charge on the consolidated fund. And putting people in prison and things like that would obviously place a charge on the fund, because you need courts and everything, and consequently it has to come from the executive. And so that would clear one constitutional hurdle from the passing of the bill, which would make it relatively easier to pass. So it's an issue as a now political will. Because really, there's no injunction by the Supreme Court. There's no injunction by any court on process. So it's an issue of political will. Parliament is sitting again. The president can present it through the Attorney General, also the floor of Parliament, for the processes to commence. And so, because for instance, the first bill, under Nanado, after the first reading, it was referred to the committee hearing. The committee sat for about a year or two. I don't know if you remember, there were committee hearings. People
a lot. Moses
Famani was there, and all, and then the late Anthony Akutuampao.
Yes.
Attended, was my senior in Chambers. Was again Audrey Gajekwe and all. Now, after that, when the report of the bill was submitted to the floor, the second and third reading were all done in one afternoon, and the bill was passed.
It will be interesting to see how that civil society group Professor Drigajepo, Professor Techu Amenu, and all of them who were against the bill, what they will do this time if the bill is to be reintroduced in Ghana. That's a very good point. So let's keep an eye on it. Speaker Bagman has a forum with media next week. Perhaps he'll take some questions on that. Yeah,
exactly. Right. So it's an issue of political will, really.
That's where we are.
It's political will because you have 2/3. You have more than 2/3 actually, because Akwitia and then
2/3 plus 1.
2/3 plus 1. So this really is not a problem.
So the NDC should pass it.
Yes, if they are so minded.
But does it have political, legal consequences? Maybe I should ask you that. You're a lawyer. You don't want to go talk politics. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Apreku is a lecturer, so when he comes, he gives us a lot of information.
I'm not there yet.
And on to waiting in Samoa, so a wabe fontinta, if you can sense. When you need to know, a man for the medical dinner to treat the day, I think you don't know what you have a to about. A son say, Ghana and penny for them, say, I do not. Ya do no form entene wo mbesere etumi a na wo mo de tumi ni eye de wo mo pe eno na Ghana for trese da bi sa krata no ye John Dramani Mahama baba mu emfie abosumi du ni emfie du de aden abosumi du ni o won sign krata ya de ehia pandis ye John Dramani Mahama so wo ye Kristoni ampa won sign krata no wo mu njai sa ayira na busu of course I Storm TV Ghana yen sa krata no enna me dem kwaku na wo dem enti kwa be fa suma mpanifo asan sa krata na sa sabe turumu ni ade ne gyan no wo se gyan oba so na wa kira wadwene subscribe to YouTube channel no like here na wasan a share dia ma foforo me din e de odoma nkomo na Kofi from Asante Gudi makro